wholeness and balanced vibration to everyone. And we're going to go ahead and begin today's show. Hopefully everyone has an opportunity to tune in. I'm going to be utilizing this chat box here just to send out a quick test to everyone and ask if you can hear me clearly. Let me cut down the sound here. And today, of course, we're going to be doing our continuation or on the new platform of the Resistance Collective Study Groups. And these groups are designed to get you in the know and also give you up-to-date information about your mind, body, and soul. So before we begin this, though, I'm going to utilize this chat box here. And we're going to have to let this catch up just a little bit because this is, of course, a live streaming. And after that, I'm going to wait for everyone to, or most of the people, for their screens to actually go live here. Because, of course, this is being streamed. Let's see. Okay. Rachel says she can hear me. So we're going to go ahead and get this started. And wholeness and balanced vibration again to everyone. I'm just going to start over because I'm not sure how much the stream caught in the beginning. But boy, is this an amazing time for us. We now have an opportunity to come before you again with a huge message of wholeness. And of course, this rolls into our Resistance Collective Study Group, Total Regeneration. So again, it's awesome to be here. I have an amazing revelation for everyone. And we're going to be talking about quite a few things, especially what total regeneration is and also how to accomplish that. I'm going to also take some calls later on. If a person wants to call in, I really wanted to set up, actually, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to do calls today, but I will answer questions if you want to utilize the chat box that's located on this live stream station. You can ask the question there. And then later on, hopefully we can either use the Skype chat box or we can have someone doing some moderation to get those questions across. Today's show is scheduled for exactly 1 hour. So maybe I may take up that whole hour and there's no time for any questions at all. But as I said, this is one of our first shows that we're doing live. So we're still getting used to being on live and all the rest of the platform, getting tuned into using live stream. In addition to that, all of our moderators and individuals are moving into another capacity. So they'll be able to help along the way to manage this platform. So since I said all that, I wanted to say wholeness again to everyone. My name is James Evans Bomar III. I'm the developer of the Planetary Resistance and the author of the book, The Code to the Matrix. Today is October the 11th, 2012. I feel like the first thing for us to do to begin to understand how to totally regenerate the body is to first understand what we're regenerating. And so that's really what the bulk of this show is going to be about, is getting you familiar with the vehicles per se, like our body and our mind and our soul, and exactly how those work in conjunction, and also their origins. So there's a huge misconception. In fact, the biggest misconception on our earth. Some people can say, well, you know, I think that this is the problem. I think that that is the problem. But the problem, whatever it is got to be huge. So what is the largest thing that we really know of, or the most powerful thing that we really know of, that when in this physical reality that we know has a lot of power and energy associated with it? And if you ask a person this question, you say, what do you think is the most powerful thing in the universe? And they're going to sit back for a moment. Some may blurt out immediately, well, it's the Illuminati, and some may blurt out many different things. However, if you really ask yourself the question, then you'll get to the source of the greatest level of misconception here on this planet. So the truth to the answer to that question is the sun. The sun in the sky, which I'll explain to you later on, is neither male nor female. So for us to give it the name sun and then masculinate it is going to cause a slew of problems, especially if it's a generator. Now, let me explain. The largest device, tool, being, essence, energy, whatever you want to call it here, is the sun in the sky. Because in the event, according to your programming, if the sun does not come out, and there ends up being 2 days of darkness and 3 or 4 or 5 days of darkness, this is going to cause a mass hysteria. because the sun is generating a light into this reality that is allowing us to be able to see things better. So let's just understand the roles. The sun generates this light that allows us in this dimension to see things better without the aid of our own eye, supposedly. Okay? So now when you dig deep into this, right off the bat, you see misconceptions, because if the sun is a dynamo or a generator, which clearly is, you can go outside right now and you can hold your hand up there like this, and you'll see that the sun's a little hot. It's generating heat. So anyone who runs around all day or does some exercise knows that when you move around a lot, you generate heat. So this means that there's major activity going on up there. But instead of trying to identify the beings that live there and their names and all this stuff, why don't we just get into some basic principles about energy? And with energy, you need what's called a positive and a negative pole, or a masculine and a feminine aspect. So anyone that tells you that the sun is a man automatically is going to cut off half of the truth from you, and you won't be able to power up anyway. So this is the first linchpin. We think the sun is God and God is a man. Okay? Now let me tell you what the sun really is. The sun that you're looking at in the sky, called in Latin sol, is actually the exact correspondence or physical correspondence of our soul. That's why it's named as such. And what we get in the reality is, they were telling you that photons from the sun program the reality. By the time that that light and energy or program photons reach here, this, as it continues to pierce through dimensions and bring life into dimensions, it brings the variations of the soul. Meaning that all realities really are the sun itself, the major archetype of the soul itself, in division. And so this was always seen, especially to the ancient people, as all of these realities, all the people that lived in them, all the animals, etc., were children of the sun, which to them was an androgynous being which corresponded to their soul. And they looked at it no different than them. Something that they look up to as a parent, but know that they're eventually going to become. As a child always has the opportunity to become just like the parent. So you can see clearly where the misconceptions come in, especially when you have individuals who are perpetuating the lie that the sun is actually a man. And so we're going to get right into this today, because of course I don't have much time to waste. I got plenty of planets to cruise through, plenty of universes to get to, you know, plenty of elements and substances across the expanse of limitlessness to experience. So the holdup is here on Earth. See, you got to realize that I'm still one of those kind of individuals that if someone's holding me up, I don't wait for them to free it up for me. So look at this also. If the sun is basically, the sun in the sky is as the external reality version of our soul, what happens if they keep telling you the sun is coming back? He's going to come back one day. This means they're telling you your soul's going to come back, maybe one day. Like your soul ran off. But really, what they've done is the so-called controllers have disconnected you from your soul. This leaving you in a state of being soulless. This soulless state is actually darkness. It's what causes this, what we think every day that should happen, which is nighttime. Do you think the sun goes to sleep? Do you think your soul goes to sleep? In fact, when the body, the Archon vehicle, goes to sleep, the soul is alive, running through another realm called the dream realm, right? Also, everyone should know there is a high definition recording of today's call. The camera is on and it's live. So let's get into this again. Actually, I forgot I had notes here. Let me get on to my notes. Okay, so let's keep going with this. So now that we understand that the sun itself, let me see what's going on. I got like 30 computer screens open here. Here we go. And by the way, I did put this together this morning. I had like this huge epiphany, and it was all making sense to me. Like I was in a deep meditation, and I really realized what our major issue is, because I'm going to start uploading images here First image I'm going to upload to you is what is known as an Archon. Now, remember, today's show is about total regeneration. So in order for you to totally regenerate, you have to know everything that's going on. And it's your choice. It's your choice to basically maximize yourself in the universe. This means that the currents to getting you to be expanded is something that you have to do. There's no amount of anything that I can say or anything that I can do to convince you of that, truly. It's you that has to make the decision. So most people that are on this line because they've already made some kind of chain reaction begin. They've already started spinning the wheels of their chakra centers, and that's what produces individuals such as me in this character, meaning giving you the extra knowledge that you may not have hours a day, or the amount of accesses, the amount of resources, the amount of individuals you may know, etc., to get that information. And this is why the resistance functions as a unit, because we have now, according to today, 6,000 members, which is actually awesome. I mean, I can remember when we were at 200-300 members. So just by the way, you know, the resistance hit an anniversary of 6,000 members today on the 11th. And it's just, you know, you can feel the energy and you can feel the knowledge that's associated with that. So let me begin here by, let me just navigate to my desktop here. And what I want to show you is I want to show you what was already talked about in regards to this planet and its so-called controllers and their ideas for humanity. And let's put here so-called controllers. And what you'll see is as you're viewing on live stream this pop up as I produce this immediately. There we are. So what you see here is that there's a Gnostic term known as an Archon. And an Archon is somewhat of an underling of another entity known as the Demiurge. It's basically everything external. Rex Mundi himself, all physical. 666, I live on Earth, I'm not trying to go nowhere. That mentality. All is now, there's no tomorrow, there's no such thing as the soul. That kind of mentality is the jealous god, or AKA the Demiurge. Now, an Archon is responsible for carrying out the duties of the Demiurge. These are individuals who are already aware of this spiritual entity that has been living on Earth for a prolonged period of time, being called different names. It is really the antithesis to the soul or the sun's shadow, for better lack of words. And so it always carries out its role. And that's what you have to realize, especially within this reality, is that what you're calling the controllers and all these different individuals, you can actually put yourself in the know and into massive levels of information within a week. So if you spend all your time dealing with the individuals in the reality and talking about Lady Gaga and not really understanding the full expanse of what you're dealing with in Malkuth, which is actually the name of this dimension, then you can miss getting to Kether, or you can miss getting to the highest levels of your physical consciousness because you become entertained by the entertainment. Remember, all of this stuff in the physical reality was supposed to work for us. In the event that it didn't, it was removed from the reality. Of course, as we spoke about in previous conversations, our language being a creative language in the beginning, meaning that the original language that we were on controlled DNA. So it allowed you to create things into the physical reality the same way that the sun does. Meaning the same way the sun uses this DNA photonic light code emission to program realities, there were individuals in the beginning that were on this planet who had also were descendants of the sun, basically, or other parts of the soul that were aware of that information. And this is why when you look in DNA and you see in the missing or the broken DNA, you see a language that is missing. And also you see within the DNA, you see a language being spoken. So what this tells you is that the original languages that were being spoken were about DNA and creation and altering creations. And that's how you get these different variations of everything that you see in this reality. Dogs, chickens, fox, cows, all these different things are because the variations, the tones and vibrations used to evoke those beings into physicality. This is the other thing you have to remember. This is not in a 3D hocus pocus. It can bring it here through a holographic nature, meaning that, of course, because every part of the hologram contains the whole, this is why most people think that Earth is a hologram or an illusion. if you were talking to certain individuals, that would make sense. However, to other individuals, it won't make sense at all. So to clarify it truly is to understand that because the soul, in our context of all is self, because the sun itself is everyone else, the only thing we are is variations of that. So this means also because of that connectivity and that affiliation, we have one of those inside of us. There is a sun, of course, inside of us, a dynamo or energy center. So you now need to look at the basics and the principles of how a sun generates so much energy to understand exactly how you can begin to generate energy. Because you'll understand also the magnetic fields. And if you see me play with my ear, this is just the worst earpiece in the world, by the way. I got to get another one of these, but it's necessary. Actually, maybe it's not necessary. Let me, everyone, just hold on for a minute, just so I don't have to keep digging into my ear and adjusting my earpiece like I'm talking to someone up the street or something. Let's see here. This is what you get on, by the way, on these shows, is you get the live thing, not their pre-rehearsal. So let's try this. Okay. All right, hopefully that works out. This is just so I can hear certain things going on in the chat box and things like that. Okay, so let's see, make sure everyone's able to still follow this. Okay. Looks like everyone's following along very well. So, okay, so you have these principles that you need to understand. Instead of looking at everyone else, let's look at the big shots and see what's going on. So in the sky, you have this sun that's generating all this energy, which obviously you need to be doing. But the sun is generating this energy based on a magnetic field, and its magnetic field, and the harmonics of its poles. This was already really discovered. So when we take it back to ourselves, we have to say, is the magnetic field around our soul intact? Like, has it been ripped, or scarred, as I call it? What is the condition of our actual magnetic field in our vehicle? Because what would happen if our magnetic field takes any type of damage is that damage would redundify across the dimension. And this is why when the sun starts kicking out these solar flares and starts ripping, then we start seeing major upheavals in the reality. And this only way people can seem to connect is that, solar flares cause a problem on the reality, or earthquakes and things like that. Yeah, but it's your soul that's doing this. When the souls of the humans and all the other souled beings start to come out of the rules of the universe, then they actually start to rip the envelope of the universe. This signals the universe to do one of two things. Actually, mainly one thing. That's how the universe is in this complete motion. Get ready for rebirth. The universe says, okay, whatever's inside there is expanding. It's about to expand into another envelope, which we've already developed, more expansiveness of closeness to self. So also, you can really be what I call the superhuman in state of mind and see all this stuff is going on and just say, well, look, I'm not even going to wait for the birth. Like, the birth happens at any time. 2012 happens at any time. Whatever day they come up with next is going to can happen at any time for you. Because what the activation does of the energy and the information, the correct information that replaces junk DNA or bad DNA, is it enlivens you to understand that, man, this is going to be forever, so I might as well get into this. Not only that, I'm about to show off. Like, this regular way of spirituality is developed by Archons. Now, I've already sourced you their picture. Now, you see, the staffs that they're carrying in their hand have two serpents on them. Now, most people, they get a little confused about the serpent stuff, so let me clear it up for you. All the planets are serpents, okay, because of the energy that flows through them, and there's multiple entities that generally have spines, which is what the serpent should be. It's just a spine that live on those. So when a group of individuals choose to only magnify two of the serpents when there was really 7 of them, let me give you and source to you the pictures. Like, I had, by the way, read pretty much every single book that's worth reading, especially in regards to these topics. So I can get those books to you, and also we'll talk about books later on. Here's a couple that I'm going to recommend that you read. I'll put those there now so I don't forget about it. But, you know, you'll see it. It's just continuously redundant. There's nothing truly new under the sun, meaning that there's nothing that is... with the soul itself, it is what it is. Whether you can discover it and fully maximize it or not is going to be up to you. So look at this. Now, in most lore, because not only the mathematics, which is the new component, but the numbers show that in the number 7, there's a lot of how the reality is designed. There's 7 days a week, and there's, you know, there's different synchronicities between this number 7, especially with the way they've configured the dimension now, right? So if there's 7 serpents, as you'll see here on these ancient charts from all over the place, even a New Age chart, which bears the witness to the same thing. If there's 7 serpents or 7 wombs, now let me tell you also what the serpent symbolism is about. A serpent is a sheath, okay? This is what the word means. It means that it is covering something. It's used to cover something, okay? Now, of course, there's a sexual nature to that, which we don't have to really uncover now, but the reality is that this covering sheath is like a protector. So when you really start putting 2 and 2 together and equaling more than even 4, then what you'll figure out is that this planet itself is sheathing us with its atmosphere. So thus it is a serpent. And they call it serpent mother, Tiamat, great dragon, she flies, okay? What is the symbolism telling you? It's a being that has sheathed all of the entities that live inside of it, and it flies through the universe like a ship. Now they're riding on a dragon. And some people are looking for the dragon to ride on, never realizing they're standing on it. It's because every single key piece of symbolism that will help you figure this out, the Archons have demonized. Even though they're the demons, meaning they're the divided men. Their uncle, meaning a father of your, a brother of your father, but not directly related to you. This is how they like to, that's why it's Uncle Sam and Uncle Tom. And all the uncle is to signify that there is the ones that are not directly from your lineage, but your brother's lineage, that have quarrels still with each other in self-discovery. Now, I've explained to you how obviously this knowledge should dawn on anyone that has developed any type of spiritual capacity. So thus, most people who think they've developed a spiritual capacity have not at all. This is because of the Archons. The Archons are masterful, the Archons of the Emerge are masterful at basically making people think that they have achieved spiritual accolades, but where in fact they are actually still in stagnant confusion and conflict and short-circuiting, never becoming a dynamo, never really turning on all the centers that are necessary to really do the miracles, right? So what we have going on here is that you see in the staffs of the Archon's hand, there's only 2 serpents. And you see this 2 serpent symbolism like pretty much everywhere. It's replete. So what they're telling you is that there's only 2 real planets that they believe in at a time. So they can, and they only use opposing planets. They grab up Saturn and grab up Jupiter. Love and death. You see? So they are masters at understanding the powers of the poles. Okay? And as you see, everyone here, in the, of course the picture again is source, and everyone here is over 60. 60 plus group. So this means that that title 1, which is in the movie The Number 9, 1, the attitude of always remaining the same and never expanding and not allowing people to do what they need to do and expand into discovering more of self exists all there, okay? It's not to point blame, though, because you have to be the one to start to not only figure this out, because that's one thing. If I'm telling you about this, it may be exciting. But for you to truly access what it really means, it takes a lot of changing within to understand that not choosing to be aware of this and move away from it means you staying here forever. This thing, according to the geometry, which I've already mapped out, like I said, is an endless knot. And I'll source that picture that I wanted to source last week. Let me see here. Okay, here we go. Here it is. Now, the serpent, they say, gave the apple to Eve. This is so silly to me. the terminology. Now look, what they're saying is that the planet gave the womb to the woman because the womb is the pentagram. It's phi. It spits out phi babies, phi-based babies. 5, fingers, 5 senses, love to fight, right? Okay, so phi is the actual energy used to create things in a physical reality. And the secret, of course, behind the pentagram is the 72 degrees times 5, which is 360 degrees. This means somehow this 5-pointed star, which they use everywhere, by the way, you would have to ask yourself the question at some point. This star that they use all the time actually is their way of cornering circles, or basically cornering spirits. Some even think trapping spirits, because if you're stuck in one and you don't know how to get out, then you're trapped. Like it's got serpent. It's the pentagram. Sir and pent. If you understand your etymology, all of this would start to click really fast. And that's why we first started approaching this in the Code of the Matrix through the language. And that really is what led us so far into this adventure of understanding exactly what's going on. So as you see here, when they say the apple, it's because the apple has 5 seeds. And if you cut it in half, it makes a pentagram. So it became the hidden symbol for the pentagram. Because the Big Apple or New York City is the big pentagram. That's why all the funkadility of the United States is done in New York. All the stock exchange, the Twin Towers, and all this stuff is in that microcosmic womb that they've developed over there playing around with the geometry. Or what I call geoenergetics. Trust me, this is still about total regeneration. So let's keep moving forward here. Let me see where, locate my notes once more. So my new saying now is metaphysics is metaphor, or understand the metaphor in metaphysics. And what I mean by this is that the only thing metaphysics really is understanding more of the divided part. Guess I don't need that right now. Understanding more of the divided part of the soul. Okay, so when they tell you metaphysics and they show you all these colors, they show you all these frequencies and the shapes and the crystals, all those things are the metaphors for the soul. Like, this is a metaphor for the pineal gland, pine cone. But what's important for us to realize is the difference between a metaphor versus actually opening the pineal gland, because there's other metaphors for the pineal gland. So this is why the three-dimensional reality always requires us to react. Because if you're sitting here waiting on something to reveal itself to you or explain to you what it means, then you're like a computer. Some people don't realize that just sitting around all day and not really doing nothing is more like a computer, because you're waiting to be engaged. You're waiting for someone to call you and say, hey, let's go. Someone to say, hey, read this. Or someone to say, hey, let's go here. Listen to my show. But that's like a computer waiting to receive demands. So this is also what I know as being called the dominion. Okay? Of course, in Latin, the Sunday is called Domingo because the Archons also have this other thing going on. And let me source another picture to you. The Archons are not just hanging around with their dark field energies not doing anything. What they're doing, just like many individuals have said, that if any type of dark energies are residing anywhere, it starts to emit on everything, right? And of course, they have all of these different workers, mindless servants, who think that they're dealing with God when they're dealing with something blind in a shadow. What happens is, let me show you this image. Let's see. I'm just going to name it like that. These days you have to really watch out how you name things. But I name it the elect, the elect and the Archons. Okay, the Archons is the one standing off a little bit further to the right. That picture's now just been sourced. So what you're dealing with here is that all positions of power are under the control of the Archons. It's like in the hierarchy that the Archon first is taking the order, and then the chief archon, who's responsible for speaking with the Demerge, which is more like the being that you've seen on what do they call that, Eddie Murphy's movie, The Golden Child. Then that's the communication that is going on. So what you have is that when our societies are being run by these kind of individuals who don't see our expansion, and that's why, if you notice with the Barack Obama, not only do they insert Barack Obama into time, like if people should understand, Barack Obama really came out of nowhere. So the reality is that when you look at like many of the pictures, and I don't have it here to source, but I'm sure someone can drop a link to it, he's Akhenaten. Like he really is. It may not be Akhenaten completely, but all they have to do is take this kind of prototype and then insert the DNA, which is still there. Like all the DNA, once you touch it, they show you, once you touch them, the DNA is all over the place. Right? So Akhenaten and everyone else's DNA from as far as the pharaohs are all over the place. Now, the kingdom of the pharaohs, which I have told everyone before, is called AR or R. That's why all your rated R movies are rated as such. And the energy in which these R fields are emitting has everything to do with the pentagram and fire. Now, the thing about fire, if you want to understand how this ended up blowing up into what is going on now, like why isn't everyone using the city, using the cities and the powers to actually boost us into higher levels of existence of self-discovery of the sun? And it's because the power itself, as they called it, again, Thor's hammer, which only Thor or God is supposed to pick up. It means that you're only supposed to really weld this kind of power when you have reached a godlike state in mind. We won't even use the word God in this term because God is a masculine God, which is numeric 10, which is Yod. But we'll say the Most High. So the Most High state of mind is the only thing that can be picking up tools of creation. Why? Well, look at all these babies. Look at all these babies that don't have parents. Like I got a call the day before yesterday, and a good friend of mine has been locked up, and her children are basically at another person's house. So there's now 3 more children that are not getting taken care of. But notice on live stream on Press TV, tons of children not alive, so are not being taken care of. So what does this mean? This means that the ultimate power of creation, which we're now neglecting, which is like the biggest thing that you can ever create, is another version of you, not iPhone 5. You see? Baby, iPhone 5. Baby, iPhone 5. The girl will be like, I don't want this baby, but I want that iPhone. You see? What's happening is the Demerge and the Archons, and as I'm talking to the men now, have gotten so tricky that they're even convincing us to continuously destroy ourselves. Droid and the rest of these beings are already here. And the other thing I want to tell you is that I'm speaking to you from experience. I'm one that made it out. And back in. I come in and out of the matrix at will now. But you have to understand that you are into something that when you really look at it, if you don't block it out all the time and say, there's nothing going on, then you'll start seeing this is very serious, but it's about you. It's about how much you're willing to let someone tell you that you cannot expand. I'm beyond death. That's the thing. There's no nighttime for me. When you understand the major principles, I'm a spirit. I never go to sleep. So even when flesh, aka the serpent, you got to realize that if this thing is based on phi and it is designed just like its mother and all that, then you find that the serpentine energies are within the human being. That's flesh. So after you spend all your day hating your flesh, which is what most people are into now, is like, they find an animal that they don't like, and it's the fox, he's so sneaky. It's the owl, they're about death. And they keep finding something else to keep doing the same thing the Archons are doing. This is why they started creating things that you don't like. So you can sit there and complain about it all day and talk about how it could be better. But meanwhile, not doing anything to make it better because you can't create. See, now you've accepted the same plight of the Archons because they can't create. Instead, they vampire off of everyone else's creations. They find what we create, kids, buildings, ideas, websites, whatever, and then they start vamping off of it and trying to make it a part of what they do by putting in their propagandas and putting in their advertisements and all of that. Like, people have to understand that this could be so big if we had more fuel. It takes more fuel to really emancipate the reality. But at the same time, the fuel itself can be summoned within. Meaning that I work on this in the physical reality, yes. But in the spiritual reality, man, I'm still keeping that same connection. You have to keep it mentally, physically, and spiritually all the time. You must do a tri-merge. You must check all your systems to make sure that they're functioning, because you can get a grandiose spirit and then fall short to the lowly flesh and run your spaceship right into an asteroid. You have to realize your mind must be sharp. If it's not true, it's not true. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. Your soul is still guiding you. It tells you. Jealous gods won't work. Chosen people don't work. I have a chosen soul. Notice how when you understand the totality of everything, and then you see those who still seek to divide it, you see their misunderstanding. Behaving as children, that's my toy. I like these humans. They worship me better. You see? So we either serve that, which is, again, the embodiment, Cain, YHVH, in the actual externalized power, bringing 26 into the dimension right away. So what happens is that if you don't understand how this whole thing is mastered, then you will be mastered. You have to continuously deal with individuals who have a defunct understanding of spirituality and where we really can be with this. So let me go ahead and source some more information. Just so you can see, this is the last picture because we're done with the Archons. I just wanted to let you know, again, let me see if that's IA. I just want to let you know again, like, it's not a game, so it may be entertaining, but don't get it twisted. There's something going on all around you. If you're here to actually do something about it, or you have energy, you have powers, or you want to, and you need a reason or a mission, it's now becoming the full spectrum so that you can function as like orgone to the reality, emitting your perfect essence or perfect template, and perfection has nothing to do with what they got going on. That perfect template, which is in full understanding that all is self, you're emitting that code, which can only be used with a biological organism, meaning only organics can truly change another organic. A machine cannot change you. You send it through a machine or a computer, the carrier becomes non-human. So what happens is that we need human beings, not more and more websites and more podcasts and more all of this. This will be phased out. The third eye won't be a satellite anymore. That's their third eye. Prana won't be electricity anymore. Electricity is their prana. That's what they use to power everything. When we wanted to power something like a plant right here, we rub it like this and the prana will come right from the hand and plants start dancing. Plants even communicating, talking about different things it's been through. You see, now droids are here. They don't even talk. You see? So that take you away from the creative power. But now I'm putting you back in the game so that way we can go ahead and emancipate the planet and get on to the next thing. Have a nice birth of the universe and ride into that next expanse all knowing each other and what we did here. You see what I mean? As a collective, moving as a body. Erase all of the BS, the programming that they are putting into the reality, the MK Ultra. You can wake up today, meaning that the actual message is so powerful when you really sit back and you replay the archives again. And then you say, you know what? This is it. Like, we're right here at October. And I'm telling you, like, the information is so potent, even for me to carry in here. I sit up like about 2:30, I think 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I get up and it's like all there. Each day, something new that is even more massive than what I was thinking about before now, or actually experiencing before. So here's another thing now. Some people say, oh, you know, I searched the pictures, right? And then the black folks are out there, and I can say that because I'm black. And they're like, yo, them white folks, I knew it. I knew it was them, blah, 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 blah. Stop. This is not at all a color thing. This is actually to do with the heart. This is to do with the core. And it comes in all shapes and sizes, the different types of individuals. Now, look above the last computer that the last computer that I just sourced. That's right. These people operate like programs on programs. Sidebar here. If humanity's potential is limitless, especially based on what the DNA and the actual genetics have already revealed, why is it that there's an enneagram of people, meaning that all people can be based under 9 to 12 archetype personalities? It's because they've released so many biological programs into the reality that still based or pigeonhole into 12 systems of ways of being, basically 12 months as they call it of the year, and they're the only system that they can manage. Remember, all these numbers, 12s, 24s, 8s, and 4s, 8s, all the numbers are coming from the Hebrew language. So that's why they're so schooled in Talmud, because in Torah and the rest of everything that can tear you apart, or your Taurus, they're so schooled in Taurus and how to deal with the torsion fields and energies of spirits in the physical reality that they can't upgrade the reality because then you lose control over it. They're in a state, and that's why they stay so original, that the Ori, as they call them, gold, and say, oh, it never changes the state, never changes the... Okay, well, the reason why, I just told you everything again there, the reason why they remain in this, doing the same thing all the time, the very ritualistic, reptilian, repetitious type behavior, you see it's all rep, like the Republican, keep doing the same thing over and over again, going by the same traditional rules, is because they're scared to be out of their scope. They're still afraid. They haven't yet bred out fear. And so, of course, that reeks into the reality, and then everyone's scared. And then all they do is show scary movies all day. Every single movie has some scary, rotten twist to it, just to keep everyone updated with their fear. Or else, we subject to not fear anymore. The human is moving so fast through experience, if it's not even showed fear for too long, it's not scared anymore. If it's never showed fear, it never even knows what it is. It doesn't express that character. So remember, that's our gift and our curse. Because if someone programs you with something and you don't know how to deprogram it, then you're sitting in a situation stuck. So what I wanted to say about these other individuals, the other Archons are black. They're boule. Bill Cosby and different individuals that you have seen on your TV, and there's enough individuals that have done enough work, so I don't even got to I'm sure they've done an even better job, but it's a black and white thing, and everything in between, as G.H. Reeves talks about the Brotherhood of Hong, all these different organizations and structures of people sitting here acting like they don't know what's really going on, because they don't. Still understand that they got so deluded on the truth way before they even had a chance to access the real knowledge about what was going on. Now, it does not reach them to the state, meaning they don't feel the same when they receive information as truth. Because they are not true, they don't recognize truth. Now, only certain beings can speak to them, though. Meaning that there are individuals that have been affiliated and involved in these different organizations and activities that still can be convinced, as it talks about in the ancient books, can be convinced to basically disavow and bring that energy and power into the side of expansion. You can do this. Again, in a limitless reality, you can really do anything. You see, some people are still looking for the rules and the guidelines, and I'm telling you that you need an entirely different processor to be able to calculate them completely. Meaning you need another kind of brain, another set of DNA to even be able to maximize yourself into the full experience of the reality. Right now, you're having a 3D experience, as the people say, I'm a spirit having an experience as a body. You're right, but what kind of experience are you having? Are you controlling that experience? Never do I jump on a ride if I can't tell them, let me off. You see what I mean? So it becomes, like I said, it becomes a great adventure when you can get in and out. It becomes a trap when you're stuck. So let's keep it going here. So what we have is, let's keep sourcing these pictures. So now we're going to talk about this regeneration that needs to take place to the mind, body, and soul, because I gave you pretty much a nice diameter of all three of those, but I really want to address them directly. And the mind in itself has a great level of deprogramming that needs to happen because of the physical reality in TV and all the rest of those integers. When you plug your mind into that, it becomes the Achilles heel to the body and the soul. It can reach you at any point, and that's why they say they move in angles. They use angels, meaning that they only work with the weak side of who you are. So this is why you must tighten down who you are all the time. And before I begin, I wanted to talk about repetition, the reptilian repetition nature of the reality. Because the reality is in a circle of time, and I told you there's other realities, some nonlinear, some outside of time. So what happens is that because of this reptilian repetitious level of how the hierarchy is working, they've installed as a core program from the stars, or what you think are the stars, the light emissions that are necessary to keep you in a circle. Okay? So, because what they did was, what the planets really are, and even the stars in the sky, is they are the birth of the sun or the soul, as we talked about earlier in this conversation. But I want you to visualize it as the sun has his baby. And they showed one coming out actually just recently, real footage, and they showed the first magnetic pulse, and you could clearly see something came out, right? So what happens is that the sun births planets like Earth and planets like Jupiter and planets like Saturn and planets like Pluto and all the stars that you see in the solar system as a generator produces more energy or more versions of itself. See what I mean? So what happens is that if you happen to be in one of these, which you are, if you're listening to this conversation today, it means that things are going to get pretty repetitious after a while, meaning that people are going to celebrate the same holidays, they're going to have the same set of weeks, days, laws, numbers, calculations, animals. Everything's going to start to look the same, especially after you've seen it all. Now, also, you can imagine if a person's already expanded into their soul and they see that all is really one thing, they can really already get tired of being here very fast. So also realize that there's a mission-based activity that goes on here on Earth for most human beings who hit that level. Meaning that if you feel like you've already realized that all is self and you don't really need any more information, great, mission time. So a part of that mission is, of course, what I'm talking about today and getting that revelation to people, and also being the orgone, or the actual generator that is emitting the perfect diagram so that everyone, or so that not everyone, but the actual DNA itself can start to respond to that. So what you have also is that when you talk about religion, and this is why it's important for you to just get the clear understanding of what the astral theology is, meaning the death, the resurrection, the different changes of the moon phases, which really most light and dark forces in all ancient books just meant the light phase of the moon, the waxing cycle, and the dark phase of the moon, the waning cycle. And all characters were divided in between. Even numbers were divided in between. And most characters at first were lunar, because everyone revered the moon for making fertility happen as it does today. And then when the Invictus came, solar Invictus, they changed everything over to solar, but they didn't actually have an opportunity to rewrite all the stories. The only thing they did is change the key components. So most stories don't make any sense, meaning most ancient stories don't make any sense because they were originally lunar stories, 14 pieces of Osiris. That's 14 days of the waning cycle of the moon, except for the one piece, and that's that one crossover point. So that's all this really meant. Now they've made it mean whatever Hollywood's creative mind could actually come up with. And of course, who is the creativity? All of the directors, all the instructors, and all the teachers from those realities, wherever they're from. All the teachers from our reality, or wherever they're from, giving their creative approach based on what they've been programmed. So if you read this book, which is Symbols, Sex, and the Stars by Ernest Busenbark, what you'll find out is you'll find at least, let's see here, 390 something pages of repetition, meaning that you'll get the entire scope of how one belief metamorphosizes over time. and how the conquerors of certain belief systems that have different belief systems change certain things and move things around, and how this leads to today that if you believe, especially on an external level, anything that is written in that Bible on an external level, you'll be greatly confused. It's been altered several times. Here's another book. If you want to understand how language affects this, the biological programming for the brain, you have to understand language, because even certain languages even determine whether a person can get a job today or not, or whether they seem to feel like they want to control everyone or just be passive. So languages do all of that. So check this book out. It's One Language by Arnold D. Wadler. You could probably pick up a copy of this for about $7 on Amazon. Let me also check our time here just to make sure that we don't go over our hour, because I really would love to do this every single day with everyone, or actually as much as possible, especially now. We need to get a lot of the new content up. And let me see here where we're at as far as time. 7:30. Okay, looks like we got a chunk of time. Great. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, it looks like we have only 9 minutes. I thought we had started on the 30 or the half of the hour, but we didn't. But I'll go ahead and finish here. Actually, there's a lot to finish, so I have to give this in a very compacted way. So what you're dealing with, so now we got to get into the total regeneration part before we end this today. Now, what you're dealing with is you're dealing with this generator. Okay, and now, of course, the goal is to jump this thing off. Total regeneration equals you being activated. However, sickness and all of the stuff that's associated with being powered down is actually 100% a disturbance in your magnetic field. Once the magnetic field starts to wane, then the sickness replicates into the physical body. So how you can really see this is that there's an invisible shield, or actually not a shield, but an invisible correspondence to you. And that gets affected before the physical correspondence to you gets affected. And in many cases, the spiritual correspondence can prevent things happening to the spiritual correspondence. The spirit can actually stop things from happening any dimension lower than it, because it moves quick. It's more superior. It receives more of the light. So let's look at it like this. If you're this hyperdimensional person and you have all these different characters that are on these different slivers of frequency, right? And let's say you're at this one here in your mind, for you realize that you have this multidimensional self. The one up here, per se, has the ability to actually receive the energy coming from the main source first, before it gets to you. So that's why the energies here have the ability to change the energies for those that are down here. Now, this is also the secret to the controllers and why they keep the reality so dark. What happens is that their frequency, just from the thoughts and the ideas of what they're doing, their frequency is very low, very dense. So it's important for them to keep everyone below them. This means that they have to actually teach people to be even more sick than they are, which they are accomplishing through the TV. And individuals actually liking things like Saw and stuff like that, training the mind to actually become forever trapped. So still remember that this is not a game here. What's happening is that they're playing for keeps. As they say, you can be here for a long time if you don't understand how this works. But even today, enough information was delivered to actually deliver you, meaning to get you into another stage of your massive experience, for you to leave old stagnant ways of being in old places. So let's get to the end of this, because I wanted to source a couple pictures, and I'm going to start now. Here we go. Now this is what I mean by this holographic, as above, so below type nature of the reality, okay? This fivefold nature of when you enter past a certain part of the pleroma, meaning that you've actually gone into a matrix. What happens is that the matrix itself is only continuously redundifying the same creation, but allowing you to think that it's different, okay? This is done through division. That's why like, we won't talk about the dead God today and how die means two, and it means you become a God when you split because your physical is gone, but there's now this other part of you that actually is God, i.e. the soul, the Most High. So most gods, most people have to die to become God. Remember that. So there's also, of course, death that are more of mental, physical, and spiritual that one can go through here in life, meaning letting go of all old things and becoming new, right? This is popular terminology within Christianity, but directly plagiarized from the Son, the soul. Them bringing something out that they act like you don't have already. You already have a soul, but what they want to do is make you think you don't have one and then start telling you soulful things. And then you start feeling like, oh my goodness, this is what happens in religions. Oh my goodness, they're so true, it's so deep. But you're seeing it as external, not as something that already belongs to you, or not something that your real mother and father who are not jealous want you to receive. So notice how in this diagram you see all the pieces of the hand. Many people are familiar with these kind of charts, but that this one's great in the aspect that it actually shows you the bone layout of all the different parts of your body inside of your hand. Now, some people choose to work directly with the body. Now we are moving to a level of working with the body's electromagnetic and magnetic fields, pranic fields. You see, because you can treat before it even enters into the body, or you can remove with a stronger power that has the power to remove those kind of things, those blocks, okay? Those squares. So let's get some more uploading here. Just so I make sure I source all those books also, I'm going to do that for you. I did get the covers of those books. So here we are with Symbols, Sex, and the Stars. Busenbark. Okay, so you'll see that there. That's just the cover of the book, so you can make sure that you're getting the right one. And one language, let me go ahead and upload that cover for you so you can also have that. And that's what makes this more interactive, because a lot of times I'll talk about a lot of stuff, and then people have heard of a lot of it, or may have read some of what I'm talking about, etc., or heard it from someone else, but you know, they still don't have a complete. They would like to basically get the rest of what it says and not just from this one segment. So this is where you can get the complete understanding. Like, these are the books that I've skimmed over a lot of stuff, and they allow you to get the knowledge that you need without inserting so much of the either misconception or maybe direct lies or misunderstandings of the actual knowledge itself. So that's, okay, here we go. Which is really hard these days, especially because there's so much stuff that's out. It's great work, and then, you know, all of a sudden it hits you with the J-Man. Or, you know, it's really expansive, but you can clearly tell the author doesn't understand all itself. Like, even the beginning of the Code of the Matrix, people have to understand that book is 3 years old now. That was the beginning, so that's why we still use that as a reference point. The reality is that there wasn't a complete understanding that all is self at that point. There wasn't a complete understanding of also that this is our responsibility to still rectify, and we have more than enough power and ability to do that. Meaning that we're not running out here on earth, the mother, the sheath, etc. What we're doing is we're rectifying, clearing up this situation, because just how this dimension is running based on Archons, it can clearly run based on limitless. There's nothing that is not possible here. Let me go ahead and source this other image that I thought was very important for everyone to have. And this is that smear of, I'll just call it the microcosmic, micro-macro nature. Okay. Also, for those who didn't get a chance to see that video I posted earlier, it's all the way at the bottom. I just call it archonic behavior. I mean, it's all there, really, in John Carter, who's another JC. The other thing is, if you look at these words, I'm live. I do this all the time. Some people want to know how and we've got about 5 more minutes left here. Some people want to know how I play around with words. And it's interesting because the other day I was noticing how if you take, let's see if people can see that. Okay, yeah. If you take this J, okay, because J, if you understand what this means in the Kabbalah, and then you add go in a row. So you first get J-A, which is Jah, which of course means fire. It's Yah, okay? And then you go J-B. This is, of course, Justin Bieber or whatever. Any J-B is a two poles, as in Jacob and Boaz, okay? And then you go J-C, okay, that's Jesus Christ, all right, or this Messiah kind of energy. Right? And then you got JD, I think that's Jermaine Dupri. I'm joking. Because a G is a J, it's really GD. And of course, that's the Kabbalic term for God. So you could keep going through this. And you get JE, which is jagged edge, or GE, which is General Electric. So what you'll find is that if you keep going through these kind of words, you'll figure out how the whole thing is really being played anyway by the individuals that are actually purporting the language. So, or actually installing the language, aka the Phoenicians, or those who teach everyone phonetics. So I wanted to say again, wholeness and balanced vibration to everyone. I did have a little bit more to get through, but unfortunately we don't have the time. Of course, we're hoping to come back either tomorrow. I think we may have to do this every other day and adjust our schedules just a little bit just to make sure that we're able to get you a really good quality program every time we choose to air. Also remember, Astral Quest is a prompting platform, meaning that it could take place tonight, it could take place in a minute, it could be 3 weeks. But Astral Quest is designed so that when these kind of major revelations begin to occur, then you're able to get that information immediately, because it's easy for me to just jump in here. Just remember, sometimes sleep may be in my eye, or I may be looking like maybe my arm may be missing because I'm still in the other realm or something. But remember that it's important for us to be able to get this information. It's important for us to be able to come together. I want everyone to also, if you can, push the like button. If you like what you heard today, it helps when you really push that button, because it allows all the keywords to this actual program to really to be able to get out into the web. And remember, like at this point, you can clearly see the potency of the knowledge is rich. All you have to do is install it. Sit down and think about it and really, really start adjusting yourself properly. I'll also copy over my notes, which remember, they're just notes. Meaning that they're everywhere. Let me see. Actually, I'm going to have to edit them a little bit because there's stuff even in here that doesn't belong here. But I'm going to copy my notes over so that you have an opportunity to take a look at that also, just in case there was something in the program that you missed. I want to again say wholeness and balanced vibration to everyone. Thank you so much for making yourself available, and we'll see you soon.